Hello, everyone. Hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for the fan support all the way. This is Sam Wong again. Hope you had a great weekend. Last week the market was doing pretty well, as you can see that the Dow came back with 0.55%, and Nasdaq was a little bit stronger, have 2.23% rebound. And obviously, volatility is still the key word, and you can see that. I mean, there's still quite a bit of V shape, if you will, to look at the market. They're kind of telling you that the market still have a lot of swing, and pretty much a driver of the previous week, as you know that is still the war, the sanctions, and Fed future aspect of raising interest rate. They were in focus, but in particularly that now we have a discussion on next time when the interest rate rise is going to be 0.5%, and hopefully, some criticism about that, whether that really can control the inflation or not. So we'll touch base of what we're being discussed about oil prices surge and in the recent market. So the last 7 days, the market has risen 1.5%, driven by gains of 1.7% in the information technology sector. In the last year, the market has climbed 6.3%. Earnings are expected to grow by 12% annually. Investors are most optimistic about the real estate sector, with trading above to 3-year average P/E ratio 37.2x. But again, this one I would say is a little bit careful right now. You hear a lot of news talking about 5 million millennials potentially need to buy the market, or the raise of the rent driving more people have more desire to own a house. But then and also they were trying to speed up before the interest rate going up. It still seems to be pretty cheap from financing perspective to get own a house. But then there's a lot of cost to go into the house, right? Just remember you have to buy insurance, flooding insurance, depending on what area you are. If you buy a house, your utility bill is going to go up significantly. So for younger people, before you consider buying a house and thinking that's going to be because of valuation benefit, you have to consider that also when you own a house, you have to pay a lot of tax too, depending on which state you live in. So when you put the modeling together and put these mathematical calculations, it all depends on your assumptions. And of course, future is the way to tell and say whether the assumption was true or not, and whether you're worth buying a house or not. And in this economy, especially when you think about what are we going to be expanding, and or the salary going to be decreased because of inflation. So certain thing to think about. I do have an ETF INFO, but I bought it in a little high end, so right now I'm losing 20%, so that's not a good thing. So people keep telling you about how bullish the market gonna be. You gotta be very careful and do a lot. My advice is do a lot more research before buying the stock real estate. I mean, zero, ZILLW as an example. Depending on what point you're buying it, the market actually they were trying to flip houses and create a lot of losses on their book. So that is something to to weigh into your consideration. Just go back to the market. The market reversed from volatile Friday and then rebounded Tuesday. However, there was concern about interest rate surge that will have adverse impact the economy Wednesday. The market pulled back again with job market continued to be strong, and Nvidia report solid earnings. The market surged again with Nasdaq up 1.93%. Jobless claim fell to 187,000 last week, down 28,000 from the previous week, and ahead of economists' estimate 210,000. The Collier stock saw as much as 90% after the company said it began production of its electric semi-truck. Again, this stock is also very interesting with the EV space that was in momentum, in 2020. You can see the market actually had rewarded this stock a lot and gone up a lot, but then because they didn't produce anything basically and keep eating up keep eating up a lot of overhead, so the stock actually have pulled back significantly. So with this turn things around, maybe you will be a good stock to look at. But if you hear my video, you know that I was more support Tesla, XPEV, Silpan. I think this stock actually have a pretty good momentum. I mean, of those Chinese stock kind of more wild card, if you will, right? Go up and down, and this stock typically before earnings, they always went up. Then after earnings, it will slip back down. But in the long run, on 2024, 2025, I think XPEV with the momentum of how many sales they have in the Chinese market, and also they also sell some in Europe. I see the potential there. And Tesla, obviously, the stock Just to look at it, 2 weeks ago, it was as low as $700, and then you rebound back to over $1,000. So if you would have bought it at the low end $700,000, you already have what 40% return, right? Although I didn't buy much, like a couple shares, just that I could keep up with the market and see what's going on there. Also, for those who also pay attention, I'd always put this stock alignment with the BTC, the cryptocurrency market. The cryptocurrency market did have rebound quite significantly. With maybe has something to do with the Russian ruby and how they're going to trade and how they get money. What now that with sanction and frozen their bank account. So BTC now is almost 45,000, but ETH at 3178. So just to get things in perspective, with these two kind of go together. And then crude prices fell almost 3% Thursday as Europe dropped the idea of banning Russian supply, but of course there's always high volatility of gas prices, very hard to know. I will cover a little bit what the Congress or Biden have in mind what to do to tackle the high oil prices. Over the last 7 days, the market has risen 1.5%, driven by gains. And investors are more optimistic about the market again. Basically, just trying to look at how things are going to shape up. Job market continues very strong, just like I covered it up and earlier. And GameStop also rebound solidly from March 15 low of $78 back to $142. Again, if you believe in GameStop, you bought it in the low end, you actually have 100% return almost in a week. Crude prices fell almost 3% Thursday as Europe dropped the idea of banning Russian supply, with gas price soaring nationwide. Maryland and Georgia became first state in the country to temporarily suspend the gas taxes. So that's just what I mean. So they actually have talked about it, whether they going to be able to, and give a gas card so that just to tackle the high gas price, but a lot of Congress people were not favored in that, talking about his tax seasons that will mess up IRS, and they will mess up a lot of budgeting, and it'll really take time to really issue in the gas card, and then talk about who qualify, who not, and so on. And really, gas card is not going to be like 1,400 stimulus check. It will be just a couple $100 perhaps. So then, that's why they, instead of that, they were actually in the state Maryland and Georgia where the gas price was a little bit skyrocketing and higher than the average, national average. They actually decide to put it in effect of 30-day no tax. So that way it should save about, based on the research saying, drivers should save about 36.1 cents per gallon on gas or 36.85 cents per gallon on diesel. Georgia's suspension should be last till May 31st and should save 29.1 cents per gallon and 30 on gas and 32.6 cents per gallon on diesel. But again, if you do the math and put it into perspective, we're not talking about a lot of money. And people who may be more impacted really would be the truck driver, or Uber driver, the people who really on the road every day. People go to work. I mean, you pretty much fill a gas once a week, perhaps. So now you did pay 25% more, but with this tax, actually give you 5% less. So it's not really, it's helped. I will not dispute that, but how much really effectiveness, right? We talk about effectiveness is in question. But I'm guessing with this announcement, perhaps the stock market will consider as a good news. We'll have some more momentum driving it up. At least thinking about the government, indeed, we're trying to help and understand the pain points of citizens to make the inflation, tackle the inflation. So the buying opportunity out there too, but you just have to be careful. Many stocks are extended or running up from the bottom, so this is what I want to show you real quick, just to illustrate my points. So this is 7th day, which is 1 week, right? And energy, so obviously energy stock prices kind of went gone up. So you can see the sector that were winning last week was energy and oil and gas. Metal and mining, again, they still have the supply, challenging on the supply chain, so that also driving that. And auto, apparently people always discuss and heard about. You go to the automobile, want to buy a car, unless you pay premium, you're not getting, even if you're willing to, in some cases, you don't get to drive the car home right away, and you have to wait. So so that is kind of illustrated. And the Tesla also rebound, and NASDAQ, just like illustrated, bounced back 2.2% on the week. But then I want to show you a month perspective. Of course, the market was concerned about when the outbreak of the war between Russia and Ukraine started the market to tank, and then wherever Chinese stock market with COVID expansion of Hong Kong, so those type of unfavorable factor driving market was really going down to the point like then Chinese stock potential delisting is keep pushing it down to the almost the lowest level. Then somebody come back with Chinese news, Chinese government come back, and then some good news coming up with Fed adding a quarter points that kind of expecting the market not so deviated from the Wall Street expectation. The market also considered as oversold, as some of the fund managers saying it's time to come back to buy some. So then you actually push it back and rebound. And this just gives you a perspective. In 1 month, energy was still the leader in terms of stock, the number one, 18.63%. That followed with the utilities and materials. And overall, the U.S. market 5.22% up in a month, which actually, if you look at the perspective, the market again have been tanking pretty bad depending on what point you're looking at. And this is just the overall market. So the future stock maybe still feel the pain and still losing quite a bit of money at the moment. And then in 3 months perspective, definitely a lot of people will agree with this ugly chart. So actually, TAT was still down 11%, which is about the right range. I mean, if 3 months I'm holding certain thing I bought in, depending on what price, I may still losing some money. Look at Facebook, look at Metaverse, look at Netflix. Even though they have look at Microsoft, even they have rebound quite a bit, it was still lower at a point 3 months ago. Telecom was suffering 13.85%. So those were the biggest loser. Energy again, you're still in a 3 months bond, and even if your chart look at 1 year, energy stock have actually definitely rebound quite significantly. With Warren Buffett actually even have a stake or buy more Occidental Petroleum energy stock. OXY symbol. And then you can see real estate actually, even though talking about the market, how bullish it is, the market, the stock actually went down. Properly has some effect about the zero where they have flipping the houses and incur a lot of losses, and the market a little bit slowing down with construction blaming that they don't have a material to build the houses. And then you can see other stuff, financial actually still at a loss with probably the bank sectors, were not, waiting for the interest rate really rising to be benefit from that. So in the long run, again, you're still looking good in that. But this is just giving you a really good perspective about where you're at 3 months. You're holding the stock, you may still at a loss, but don't worry. Again, you're looking at a long run in the future, and in first quarter where market going to be wary with strong resilience stock, particularly performing a solid earnings that may actually drive the market. And you can see that you really, I wouldn't say that let's say bottom up on what we have seen, but again, at least it's a V shape kind of rebounding back quite a bit from the worst point of where we are in the Nasdaq and Dow Jones Industrial Average. And this is just giving another idea, but bear in mind this is merging this is from a Wall Street. You can subscribe to that, but I get a free services. I don't get into detail, but just high level. This is based of the market capital. This is the best 10 stock market capital on just 1 day, Friday. They're flipping around with the best return. So just to give you an idea. So the 1 year return may not be relevant. The 1 day return may be relevant because they're showing. But again, this is based off the size. So not necessarily the percentage, but dollar-wise, how much working capital, the capitalization have changed because of the stock price gone up. So you can see Amazon, which is pretty big, that's why. And Apple definitely were really prime winner. If you will look at 2 weeks ago, Apple was down to 150-ish. And if you have 174, it's pretty good shape. Consider the size of this company. If they push up another $6, they were again reaching the $3 trillion valuation territory again. And Metaverse again, it was really significant beat up. It was from $330, gone down to $220. At one point, it was $185 in the week before. So you can go back to and listen to my video about the comments and what I think about the Metaverse. And I still think this will be good to hold for a year and see what happens. Apple is another one I endorse out of the FAAMNG stock, and Microsoft as well. And Bank of America Bank also, you did a pretty well stand on Friday. And then the last piece I want to show you is the worst 10 players. Again, based on the worker capital for the Friday only, and emerging that was dropping the most significant. And you can see that the stock have dropped down by quite a bit. In Nvidia down 1.6%, Baba was down. Baba was have been gone up quite a lot for last week, since Chinese government saying about supporting the penalty, or looking at this big corporation for finding almost done, will help in supporting them continue to grow and sustainability. So that actually helped the stock to come back up and working, and still have the discussion talk with Biden's about potentially tariffs talk. And I know that the latest news is that 300 plus stock plus item that again just kind of waiver from the tariff, imposing tariffs again. So that's a good news. So the market haven't talked too much about it, so maybe that will drive the Chinese stock and also the overall market momentum. Because again, for those who listen to me, that I say, if there's a solution, have to be quickly fixing inflation, you have to look at the source where the stuff coming from, right? Most of the thing coming from China. So having the tariffs removed really quickly, you can see should be the quickest way to see price going back down. So of course you have to have the supply, which is cargo, container, and whatnot, shipping to the U.S. Otherwise, you get stuck with that kind of supply chain. It's not going to help you even with cost cutting. Removal of the tariffs because of the cost cut. Because of that, and then NOW also have been beaten up, but this stock actually have been, from a high tech perspective, have a strong note. Moderna, however, which is in the pharmaceutical industry, because of the vaccination, kind of in US, we are not wearing masks and anything anymore, and a lot of people actually immune because they're already vaccinated. So then, this stock, you can see that have been actually pulling back quite a bit. Pfizer is still around at the $50 level, but I don't know if we're going to go up and down. So you can buy some, but actually at this point, I'm not betting this stock will have any more breakthrough to go up. And I'm still a big fan of, against the travel industry, bowling, which unfortunately the Asia, the plane that crashed is part of a bowling make, but they are old models, so I wasn't too concerned about it. They found the two black box already, so we'll see what the government official going to say, or the plane company after the investigation talk about it. But again, I hope pandemic will be over, COVID will walk it out from Hong Kong, China, South Korea, why not? I mean, actually, we want to be really go back to normal. Hopefully, this will go away, and I mean, everybody will be strong enough to be immune from that virus, and also hopefully the war will be over soon. I mean, people keep saying stall. We don't know how long, but the longer is the more people suffer from it. So I hope this will be over soon. So those are the optimism with the news, continued cooperation among the world, which is, China and US definitely for the two strongest leaders have to talk, and really leading the world to as a good example to how to continue promoting economy and welfare and personal health care. So I look upon to them. So hopefully I give you enough insight. And again, from the long-term perspective, the way I look at it is, right now the window dressing started to corporate the fund managing. You will go up to the cycle. Hopefully we hit April again. Every quarter close to the earnings, you always have some momentum and some surprises positive. So then we'll see how resilient this FAMNG going to be again, and that will be create some wave to push it up. But after that, because the Fed, again, that is another risk factor, will continue interest rate to control inflation. So to start with them, even with rebounding looking more healthy, you have potentially going to be going down, but I won't call correction. But at that point, you have to pay attention to decide your strategy. You have some long term, you definitely want to hold, with those solid stock, and collect dividend and some stock. But if there's some stock that you lost so much, like 30%, and pretty much rebound back and give you 15%, you lost half, then maybe you consider want to walk away from that and take the cash and wait for the next opportunity. And also at that time, you give you enough time, about a month, to do your homework to reevaluate your portfolio. Any questions you have, feel free to email to me. Hope you have a great, wonderful week.